How many people do you think drive by mobile home parks every day and don't even think twice? There's nothing that sounds like sexy or luxurious about it, right? But it's literally right in front of your eyes. Would you invest in something that nobody wants to build, yet some of the largest investors in America can't get enough of? Would you invest in something that nobody wants to build, yet some of the largest investors in America can't get enough of?
Joe, we're buying America from Florida and other states very soon, and we're gonna keep discussing this. That is getting more and more attention, the mobile home parks. Why this asset class? Why now? For some people, on a first look at it, maybe rates are high. They say that some sellers are getting crazy with what they're asking for a park, since the asset class is getting hotter. So between all of this, are you still bullish on the asset class?
Absolutely. So having been in real estate for 30 years, look, one thing that I think everyone should be able to agree with is affordable housing isn't going anywhere. In fact, there's more of a need for it than, every year it's like there's more and more of a need for it. So, sorry, I felt like I lost you for a second.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So let me ask you this. What, and I would imagine that you know the answer to this, right? But one of the most successful investors of all time would be considered who?
Well, maybe, what's the name of this guy? Warren Buffett, probably.
Oh, man, see, I knew you would get it. So yeah. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time. And what does Warren Buffett look for when he's buying a business? When Warren Buffett is buying a business, he's always looking for something that people need, right? And then what he's trying to do is ensure that whatever he's looking for in what people need, he's looking for the simple sheer fact that that business satisfies that need. Okay, well, how does it translate to what we're talking about? Affordable housing. So we're investing in a business. We're looking for what people need. And what people need today, more than before, is affordable housing. If you just start at one point there, you're navigating. There's so many different types of investments. There's so many different types of businesses, but you have to start with the basic premise, right? And take a page. Investors of all time. And that's always been my philosophy as well. When you're investing in a business, what is it that you're looking for? And it always has to cater to the need of people, not some luxury, not some high-end thing. There's a niche market that really is affected by economics. But when you're looking for the basic premise, forget about rates, forget about we are investing in a business that caters to the need of people. And that is a business that is not going away.
Okay, Joe, but let me stop you there, because you as a real estate investor, probably I can tell you, okay, I'm gonna do this investment, the strategy where I buy single family homes and then just rent them out. And you would tell me, well, not every single family home and not in every area makes sense. Price matters. You need to check the numbers, etc. So please develop more. When does it make sense? Because I'm pretty sure, I know you're buying parks by the time we're speaking. So when does it make sense to you to buy a park? When doesn't it make sense for you? What's the strategy behind the portfolio you're putting together?
Okay, so one, we've established. Now let's scale it on, because in any business model, there's questions that need answering. So we've agreed. We've already answered the basic premise on okay, when we're looking to invest in a business, we want to cater to, what people need. We've accepted, we recognize people do need affordable housing. Great, check mark, right? Mm-hmm. Now we continue, because there's phases to this. It's not just a matter of like, hey, I want to invest in this. It sounds like a great idea. It has to check off all your boxes. So when we're investing in mobile home parks, and we understand we're doing it because there's a high demand for affordable housing. Now the next thing we're going to look for is, where are we buying these mobile home parks? Where are we going to target? Are we going to look out in the middle of like perhaps countryside? I mean, there's parks that are in urban areas or rural areas. Like, where exactly is going to be our focus? And I'll tell you, here's the amazing thing for anyone that's listening to this. How many people do you think drive by mobile home parks every day and don't even think twice? It's such an asset class that's overlooked. You see the high-rise apartment buildings. You're in awe if you happen to drive through, and I know there's people that drive through like subdivisions just looking at nice big homes, dreaming one day. But all too often, people are driving and not cognizant of the fact that on either side of the road, there could be a mobile home park. So like it's an asset class that's so easily overlooked because there's nothing that sounds like sexy or luxurious about it, right? But it's literally right in front of your eyes. So the next thing that we're looking for is, as we're driving through busy areas, cities sometimes, bigger municipalities, have you ever heard, when you buy a vehicle and you don't necessarily notice that vehicle on the road, but the minute you buy it, all of a sudden you're like, hey, there's another Jeep right there. Oh, there's another Jeep. Oh, wow, there's a Jeep. I didn't realize how many Jeeps were on the road, right? But before you buy it, you don't really realize that they're all around you. Well, it's the same theory. This applies to mobile home parks. So what you got to start doing is, the minute you invest your energy, time, and effort in recognizing that this is an asset class that you want to be in because financially it makes sense, you're going to start to notice these old parks as you're driving. You're going to start to say, I never realized in this city here, there's actually quite a bit of mobile home parks. So now what you have to start doing is increasing your awareness level that this exists. You've checked off the box that it's something that you want to do. You understand why it makes sense. Now you have to start being consciously aware of how visible it is, the magnitude and the size of it, and to recognize that, hey, we're surrounded by retail business, commercial streets, where not everyone is living in these luxury neighborhoods. So where are these parks? Start to recognize where you are in close proximity.
Okay, Joe, but with this said, if we're honest, we can agree that the asset class is getting hotter. Institutional money and some big investors are looking at it. And so we have seen this effect happen with everything. Probably if we talk about crypto, we can talk about how easy it is for us as a whole financial market to, create a bubble. And we have created them for so many times. So are you still finding what you would consider undervalued parks? Are you buying at what you would call a fair price? Like how would you name the state of the market right now?
For sure. So what I would say, the answer to that, just like in any other time, is there's always an evolution and a transition of business, right? I mean, we can take a look at the past several decades, and business is trade. You're going to have people that own various sorts of businesses that have owned them for like 30, 40 years, maybe 50 years, maybe shorter period of time. And then the reality is that not everyone's children wants to inherit the business that the parents have created or built, right? So trading has always happened. It's just a matter of like determining, okay, do these numbers make sense? The opportunity is there. The opportunity in mobile home park investing is still there. If you were to say, what's the landscape of mobile home park? What's that environmental landscape financially going to look like in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Well, there's a lot of economic analysts that love, right, to sort of project what things will look like. But look, in my 30 years of investing, I can tell you there's always some opportunity that is created, some that goes away, other that gets created, then that goes away, other opportunities show up. It's always around you. And just like when you're driving and you're driving around like city limits and you're paying attention, you have to just awareness level on what exists and what is out there. So I know I'm giving you a little bit of a long-winded response, but the reality is, yes, the opportunity still exists. Institutional funding, hedge funds, that kind of stuff, they have definitely entered the game, which is sort of like changed the landscape, right? But similarly to what's happening in the single family market, I mean, if you had talked to a lot of investors a year ago, they would have said there's nothing but doom and gloom, right? The single family investing game is destroyed. Why is it destroyed? Because institutions have come in and they've gobbled up thousands of single family homes, and that's it. We will never be able to see that opportunity again. But what has happened in the United States? Well, it's now gone through, it's passing through legislation, where they've been about this for a while, where they wanted to ban institutional investing, right? So just when you think that there's doom and gloom, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You take a look at some of the greatest inventors, some of the most successful investors of all time. They hit hurdles. They had their challenges. Nothing was like streamlined. There was nothing perfect. In my 30 years of investing, I can tell you, I can count on more than just like, these two hands, how many challenges I faced, how many times, through, weathering the storm through like different economic like cycles and environments. The reality is you just have to understand your field of investing. So to make this not so complex of a response, understand, target what it is that you want to invest, start to understand, which we'll get into future episodes, but start to understand, how do you analyze and assess the viability of mobile home parks? Now, I'll conclude by just saying this. It's not always black and white. There isn't just one way to structure a deal. If there was, there would be much more or less business transactions that are facilitated every day. So just because structuring a deal in this kind of environment doesn't make sense, it doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to structure the deal where it can make sense for you. So again, I'm not going to go into, the structuring and the strategies used, but just wanted to really stress that point. So many different ways to structure a real estate deal, a business deal. Heck, on a geopolitical level, we're negotiating with like countries, and these negotiations aren't black and white. There's so many concessions. There's just so many ways where it can be done, where it can be a viable investment. But I'll tell you, people get caught up in now's not the right time, or I can't make that deal make sense, or I'm too late. And probably one of the things that I've heard in my 30 years investing is, man, I wish I had started that like 5 years ago. I wish I had started that 10 years ago. And I hear that every single year. And a year from now, people are going to say, oh man, if I had only done this last year. 5 years from now, I'm going to hear the same thing. Man, if I had only started a couple of years ago. I don't even think that conversation is going to go away.
Okay. And how can people, because, okay, we I don't know, if I have to talk about the small parks, we're talking about parks that are at least 1 million and then from them up. So easily, even a small park can be 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. So is this for everyone? How can someone participate? What would be the approach for, let's say, regular investor that doesn't have, a couple million in the pockets to go and invest in an asset like this?
So, I think one of the things that people can take away from this show here, and something that, I wish I had learned maybe in my initial, year of investing, although I did learn, because ultimately I ended up being surrounded by really influential investors that had a tremendous impact on my life. But there is this like fear, right, which I was told a long time ago is really just false evidence appearing real, right? But there is this like fear legitimately that people have in thinking, I don't know anything about this. You're talking about $1 million investment, $2 million investment. That just sounds scary. And they feel like they've got to know everything, from beginning to end. And, you hear the horror stories of people investing in something and then they've gotten burnt. Well, if you don't learn your lessons, then you're just going to continue to like repeat those mistakes. But if there's one thing that I would say to someone who, and even if you're a savvy investor, this is applicable to you, because it's always good to surround yourself with people that are experts in the industry and can help you scale and get so much bigger. But for the investor that's just listening to this, thinking, I have some funds, maybe not a tremendous amount, but I do have some funds. I would love to get into what Joe was talking about, but I've never done this. The biggest recommendation and suggestion that I can make is piggyback off of those that have done it. There's a lot of collaborations. There's a lot of funds. Like I didn't know what funds were when I first started my investing career. I just thought I had to do everything on my own. And then more by like fluke and coincidence than anything else, I ended up doing smaller syndications, partnering up with one guy. And, both of us were like, hey, you want to do this together? But not really researching or understanding what it was. It was just more, hey, opportunistic. Let's take advantage of this. And, the two of us can facilitate this. And then it was like, hey, there's that person. Do you want to invest with us? And then it became, 3 investors and then 4 investors. And it was always on a very small scale. Knowing what I know now, I would have gladly and happily gotten involved investing in a fund with a myriad of other investors and operators who have the experience that, while I'm earning money, generating and being able to take advantage of those opportunities, I get firsthand, direct communication with the operators. Like that still exists. I'm not talking about investing in a, $1 billion fund necessarily, but there's a lot of like smaller funds. We've set up, various smaller funds where the investor can communicate with operators like us. You get onto Zoom calls, you have meetings, you can ask questions. And what better way to learn the game by investing alongside those that have done it? That completely a concern of, I don't know what I'm doing, but I would love to be able to tap into and get into something of that nature.
Okay, so there's, Joe, I think a lot of things to break down. I think this is an initial show. If I'm honest, I think there's a lot of substance you still have to share because you kind of went on the top. But I will.
You're talking about trying to drink water out of a fire hose, right? There's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. I mean, I don't know, and who knows? Maybe with the advent of AI, it really is going to be as simple as connecting some wires from here, and to you, right, and passing along that knowledge. But in the meantime, I don't know of such technology that exists, so we're going to have to use this format for the next little bit.
I'd rather stay with this format than the dystopian one.
I agree.
Talked about. Okay, so thank you, Joe. We're gonna keep talking about funds, and as I said, I'm gonna demand more substance for next episodes, so people can, why not start doing probably the same things as you're doing, or doing with you. Let's see.
All right, sounds good.